Rule 7 is to pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. As clearly noted, suffering is a fact of life. Since we as humans are self-conscious beings, we are capable of delaying our gratification and pleasure in the present, for the sake of work and sacrifice in the future. It is important to delay our seeking of pleasure and regulate impulses in order to allow for humans to work together to pursue their goals, foster relationships, and build society. Peterson makes the connection that sacrifice and work for all intensive purposes are the exact same things, as shown in the Bible, where man is forced to work to live. Just as Cain and Abel gave up their produce as a sacrifice to God, we as humans have learned to store food for later and to trade food with others when needed, accumulating in personal reputation and being the first instance of a social contract. Thus, through sacrificing and sharing, this allows for one to save for the future and establish relationships with others. Just as the new life is given through the archetype of Christ, we must be capable of sacrificing immediate pleasures, as well as what we value the most, in order for greater meaning and value to come along. In Greek philosophy, according to Plato, Socrates also took things into his own hands when he decided to accept his predicament in his trial before Athens, and in doing so was willing to pursue the good and the true, even if it meant his own death. Self-sacrifice is applauded as one's willingness to and conviction of truth in the face of suffering and injustice of life. Being the polar opposite of self-sacrifice, evil can make the suffering of life much worse. In Matthew chapter 4 verses 1 to 11, Jesus confronts Satan, the manifestation of evil, by rejecting temptation. Despite being granted food, the safety, and all the nations and riches of the world, Christ was able to fend off temptation, and thus in doing so transgress over what is considered expedient for the sake of the good. Thus goes the saying by Carl Jung, "No tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." In knowing the very face of wickedness, one can then sacrifice for the sake of the ultimate good. Peterson quotes Nietzsche in challenging the Christian faith, since despite the good it has brought about in the emphasis on truth and the sovereignty of the individual, the faith was being challenged by the very things that it had created and valued, namely science and naturalism being an outgrowth of truth and an emphasis on faith over works. Nietzsche saw those as the metaphorical nail in the coffin, and that humanity must make their own values. However, the Christian faith, according to Dostoevsky, in his work The Brothers Karamazov, is manifested in the actions that are taught by Christ, who kisses the Spanish Inquisitor when arguing that Christ is no longer needed. The kiss is the literal turning of the other cheek, which highlights how actions over words are emphasized, and that we place the most value on these actions. Actions manifest themselves in persistent discipline in order for greater freedom for the individual to flourish, since with discipline comes greater control. The philosopher René Descartes came to doubt everything except the I in his famous statement, "Cogito ergo sum," I think therefore I am, and that I is the ultimate conclusion which can bring meaning to our lives, where we let our conceptions live or die, where we let out temptations and expedients live or die, through greater self-control, sacrifice, and working for the future. As a result, greater meaning and discovery of the ultimate truth can flourish, one that triumphs over instant but fleeting gratification, transcends evil and suffering, and develops improvement and hope for the future. Thanks for watching.